Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't see the first two games and you're wondering, wait, how the hell is Polar Ace up 2-0? Well, they're doing something, folks, because, game one definitely was, a little back and forth up until the mid game, but game two, just an absolute blowout, dominating performance from the Frozen Five, the Arctic Dog. They are all over the rift right now, and they are showing their stuff with some style, Cubby.
Yeah, I mean, talk about style. Why not pull out a Riven R5 and have that as a counter to the Gangplank? And, it's a pick that I think that game, if it doesn't manage to blow out lane, it would have really struggled. But on the side of Polar Ace, I mean, they just took 3 winning lanes. They had a good jungle matchup for Kindred. Yes, Gragas can knock people out of the ult, but in the one-on-one, Kindred should be able to get ahead, get some tempo. And they just blew out the map early. I mean, you had solo kills going down in the top and bot lane before level 5, level 6 came through. You had a level 1 kill going over to spawn. I mean, when that happens, the game just kind of breaks, and 100 Thieves Next weren't even able to get their footing in that one.
Yeah, the only way Polaris could have looked more stylish is if they had already released the Spirit Blossom skins for Riven and Kindred, man. Ooh, these guys look so nice on these champions. And it's what we highlighted for Flares too. He's got these unique champion picks in this top lane that he can carry through. And he's solo killing this Gangplank a number of times. We see him in the mid lane being that diversion, critting the Gragas just with the S3 for 25%. Incredible outplays coming out from him. You love to see it. And oh man, Polar Ace looks super on fire today. Contrary to the ice theme that they're going for, man, they are cooking today.
And before we get too further into the more exciting parts about the game, we got to start from the beginning because, one person we haven't really talked about is Spawn on this Kalista. Starting from the very beginning of the game, that first blood onto Yon, that set up the tempo for Polar Ace and the rest of the squad to play through here, Cubby.
I mean, this just breaks the game when this goes down, right? I mean, that doesn't even allow your lane to get into it. Otto was going on a ward roam, and Yon just gets soloed out. And, we talked about how Copy and Yon really needed to step up in order to help this team perform, losing their 2-star members to Academy. And so far, they haven't been able to do that. And it's looked pretty grim for 100 Thieves Next, but there's also been some really good plays on the side of Polar Ace. Spawn has played fantastic in both of these games. And curious to see what kind of adaptations 100 Thieves Next has up their sleeve in this one, because Game 1 really felt like they lost draft. Game 2 felt like they just got blown out of the water before they could really get into that game, like in the 5-minute mark. And then Game 3, I mean, I feel like 100 Thieves Next, they've got to put a good showing on. Yes, it's a different roster, but they were still the most dominant team that we've seen here in SGC. I mean, their only loss was a 2-0 against a new, and hey, they got them back in the best of 5 in Big League too. So really curious to see how these guys can really group up, get their head straight, and step up, because this is not what we're expecting out of this squad.
Yeah, not at all. Especially when I was highlighting the adaptation I was hoping to see coming into game 2, it feels like they took a step back from that one. We're seeing Fallen Bandit on a more damage-oriented carry. NXI is on Gragas, not really a carry champion in his own right. And then we are seeing a Senna for Yon. The exact opposite of what I was hoping to see out of them in this game too. And if they continue on this trend, it is just going to be TJ's prediction coming true, something that none of us expected except for him, the 3-0 for Polar Ace. It is really feeling like that is the trajectory of this. Just look at these kills from Spawn, man. He's popping off on this Kalista.
Yeah, I mean, early in this game, it was like 8-1, and when that happens, you can't even play the game, right? Like the game just ends, and you're playing at this level. And I mean, credit to Polar Ace, they were able to find those individual plays and leads, but this is not the 100 Thieves Next that we were expecting to see today.
Yeah, not at all. Abras highlighted it best when he said that these early game champions, if they get ahead, then the game is just going to end exactly like this. And Polar Ace executed on this so beautifully in the early game. I would love to see this from them again, because that will book them a ticket to finals for sure.
It's one thing when we talk about amateur teams in general trying to go for these blowout early game oriented compositions. In fact, it's very funny that they were able to pull it off against 100 Thieves, because they were famous for being one of the few teams, if not the only team for most of the SGC season, for being able to pull out win lane, win game compositions overall. But the fact that Polar Ace have the bravado and the confidence to be able to take this on, yes, this is a 100 Thieves roster without and tenacity. But considering that Fallen Bandit was the coach and then NXI, you would imagine that Copy and Yon would be able to have more agency in this game to be able to step up here. But clearly, it's not the case. And without putting too much onto the why are they playing so badly, it's more, I mean, Spawn is just across the board, this entire Polar Race roster, as you've seen, even standout moments to Frost Force coming in on the Kindred, being able to use the fact that he has priority in all three lanes to be able to push NXI out of the jungle. Even Julian on the Thresh having that standout moment, being able to completely outplay and outmaneuver Compy's Azir shuffle onto Buzio's Zoe and being able to take down the Gragas as well. I mean, the entire roster for Polar Ace just woke up today and said, you know what? We are going to take down 100 Thieves.
Right. And if it wasn't for 100 Thieves getting that 3-0 against Radiance last night in UPL, we really wouldn't have any expectations for this team, right? Because it's not the same team that got here. I mean, literally with the roster that they have. But the fact that they did 3-0 and looked dominant while doing it, yes, Radiance had themselves a tough day yesterday, kind of got our hopes up, right? We're like, wait a minute, like, Fallen Bandit's a former LCS player on XI, pretty strong mechanical jungler. Maybe they can find something. And just kind of seems like it's a different day and they're off. And, this team, they've only had 2-3 days to gel. And so, like, my focus is by no means like saying that this team's playing bad, because, like, we don't even know what to expect out of this team yet, right? We have 5 games as a sample size. But what I do know is that on the side of Polar Ace, this is one of the better days I've seen out of them. They're playing very well today, and off the back of Spawn, they look good with their new jungler meshing right off the bat as well and incorporating him into the roster. And it's looking promising. I mean, being up 2-0 against 100 Thieves next and finals on the line, you get 3 match points coming up here. You've got to feel like it's a really good start for Polar Ace. But, in the words of the great Chicagoan Michael Jordan, job's not done yet. So we're going to have to see if they can wrap this one up.
Yeah, it's only a 2-0 for Polar Ace. They've got, one more game. It is match point for them, whereas 100 Thieves, if they want to take this series and go to the grand finals next Wednesday, the long road begins now. Every game must be a win, and we're going to have to see if this is the start of that reverse sweep or if Polar Ace will close out 100 Thieves in a 3-0 as TJ, Invert, and Ibris take Game 3 draft.
Behold the face of your prediction god. I'm one game away from being more right than anyone dared admit I was. And now we're into the draft for that Game 3. Invert, you've been with us the entire time. I've seen your faith in your 100 Thieves narrow victory kind of slide away. Do you really think they're going down without a fight?
So one thing I want to say before I answer that question is, TJ, I think you're one step closer to your prediction being right. My prediction can still technically be on track. But Ibris, we know Ibris' prediction is just dead in the water, right?
We can both be right at this moment. The important thing is Ibris is wrong. One other thing that's right, I will say, is this draft starts off with 100x getting that Kalista on their side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kalista, of course, very early lane phase dominant champion, as you saw in the previous game. And this puts a lot of investment on the side of 100 Thieves next to play around their bot lane that has struggled so far this game.
Is a Caitlyn, though. I'm very excited to see that. That's a complete matchup win, right, Ember?
I believe Caitlyn got buffed on this patch as well. So looking to see the buffed Caitlyn into the exactly, and AD I believe as well. So yeah, range advantage, able to play those more protective supports into the all-in lane of the Kalista. Normally you like Kalista in this situation because Ashe is gone, so it's very easy to play Kalista. But now you match the range with the Nidalee, and you get a very aggressive jungler, which is something that we said 100 Thieves was lacking last game.
Yeah, it does kind of drive out some of those more utility-centric junglers as well, if Polar Ace do want to opt into one of those. But also, giving away the Thresh here is a little bit shaky for me. I don't like the second pick Syndra, by the way, because you're taking away half of the power of the Syndra pick by telegraphing immediately that she is definitely a mid laner. Granted, it is very good into Kalista anyway, because if Kalista ever moves in range to auto-attack, she's going to get an unleashed power to the face and immediately die.
I'm gonna have to catch us up here, but I do want to note this NXI has been really good throughout the series. This is his one trick. He is a damn good Nidalee. of the Thresh down in the bot lane alongside the Kalista. As you'd expect, Morgana, Caitlyn into it with that Syndra, presumably taking mid. We're into the second ban phase. How are things shaping up, Inver?
Yeah, the Galio ban, pretty interesting. I wouldn't really think Galio is that threatening in this situation. Lee Sin, definitely. You don't want to give away that Lee Sin Syndra mid combo. But even further than that, the Caitlyn Morgana is back. You know, this Thresh is going to be very, very hard to play in the later stages of the game as you get that Morgana shield. And there's the Jace. The Jace was banned.
That's
on
Kindred.
It is not a Jace. We have
Oh.
It's a bug.
From our producer. This is a bugged pick. It will be a Kindred.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I think Jace here would have been a little bit troll just because you want that counter pick guaranteed for flares. That being said, Jace is like the go-to counter for a lot of teams
But it's
into
not
the
there.
Syndra,
The
so you
Kindred.
would take it away from that. Yeah, stop analyzing the Jace pick. It doesn't exist. It's a
does
Kindred.
taste, and it's baited you.
Yeah, honestly,
I want to highlight that jungle matchup if we can, Ebros, because it is Nidalee into Kindred. We've seen a very good performance on the Kindred from both junglers here, but this is the Nidalee one trick and XI getting his own way.
Yeah, I definitely think Kindred is one of the junglers that Nidalee can really take by storm early, and will probably contest you for almost every mark. And that's where the Echo does come into play here, because you willingly got the counter pick mid, and yet you pick something that, yeah, while is super devastating post 6 and spikes on every item, it does mean that the first couple of marks should have to be seeded by the side of 100 Thieves.
One of the things...
Copy says he's done playing Karma. He'll get the Echo to get a little bit more spicy in mid. Then we get the exact opposite. Finally, the Ornn Fallen Bandit can just play safe in top lane. Down bottom, on that Polar Ace side of the draft, we have completed with a Camille to go up top.
Yeah, one of the things to really look out for on the 100 Thieves draft is they're actually really heavy index towards magic damage. And it's something that later in the game could really punish them, especially because you're playing against a Morgana, which gives their champion a magic shield to work with. So team fights later are going to be pretty interesting. The Nidalee outranges the Kindred, so we should see Nidalee able to poke her out. But then otherwise, a lot of this comp on the side of 100 Thieves is diving, meant to go into the Caitlyn and Syndra, and hopefully they're able to pull that off. But if they don't, that Kindred ultimate's going to come down, reset the fight in favor of Polar Ace.
Yeah, you also have to factor in that the trap line, the morgue queue, so many tools for the side of Polar Ace just disengage really heavily, to say nothing of the scat of the week. And short of finding a Miracle Thresh hook or a really clean Fate's Call or Call of the Forge God, or like, you know, the next big thing of a Echo W flank, it's going to be really difficult for 100 Thieves to actually execute on that. That being said, much easier comp to work with compared to the ones we've previously seen from them this series. And as well as that, you now have your jungler getting his one trick and hopefully looking a lot more comfortable and a little less lost on the map.
My big story from game 1 and 2, though, has been Spawn in the bot lane, and he has a winning lane on paper. I'm going to go to you, Invert, Polar Ace, the draft. What are your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, we'll see if it is a winning lane with the Caitlyn buff. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not fully sold, but of course, if Caitlyn Morgana gets rolling, that lane is really, really hard to deal with and really hard to stop. You know, they're just gonna rail the enemy turret, get those plates, get a quick swap onto the Herald to get more plates, and then Caitlyn can come online very, very quickly. I'm actually really looking forward to this top lane matchup as well. Flares does get the Camille. It is one of the champions he is very good at. Fallen Bandit does get the Ornn. The Camille is a better matchup into Ornn now than it ever has been because Ornn's wave clear is very poor early on. So Camille can actually somewhat match it. Someone can test when her passive is up. I'm looking forward to see how that matchup evolves throughout the game.
Yeah, speaking of that passive, gonna pay dividends against that pure AP focused top side. I do want to touch back on the bottom lane though, because I think it comes down to which support can get control of that initial lane brush at level 1. That's why I'm expecting the sweepers to come out. Then you start fishing for picks with the binding or the thresh Q, and whoever gets that first like instance of damage and then subsequent control of the brush should just be able to take full control of that lane. Whether that means we see the junglers start topside like we saw Polar Ace do in game 1, like we saw the jungler of 100 Thieves start in game 1, where he started bot side so the Shen could have control of top side himself, or if we see, you know, a different adaptation. And well, yeah, just whoever gets control of that tier 1 bot brush really gonna take full control of that bot lane, you have to imagine.
Yeah, one of the things, actually, some LCS insight here that Double Lift and Core JJ used to do with this Caitlyn Morgana bot lane is actually 5-man through the bot lane to the very last bot brush of the lane, get the ward so that they see whether the enemy lane is playing further up, trying to cheese them or get a level 1 advantage or not. And if they're able to keep their range or able to get that information, they can play out the lane safely and they get their natural advantage. So the scrim meta, the practice meta, the you know, game meta kind of evolved so that teams eventually just sent 5 people down bot trying to secure that bottom lane control during that Caitlyn Morgana Xayah Rakan meta.
It is game 3, though. I think 100X with their best draft yet have their best shot yet, and they'll need it. If they lose this, they're out of Challengers Uprising. They're out of the semifinals. There is nothing left, and Polar Ace go all the way through to wait in our grand finals. We start with a bang here, Ibris. Already kicking things off very aggressively for 100X.
Yeah, really just interesting invade here as we do have the clash of, you know, the 5v5. No regard for that tier 1 brush, no regard for the bot side invade. Instead, just going full commit to get some information on the enemy jungler. Once you figure out where the Kindred's starting, it becomes really easy to, you know, kind of read where she's going to be greeding for the marks on the map. And it does mean that, well, already a Frost Forest greeding for some positioning here with the 100 Thieves bot and jungle trio now fishing for a play.
I think the principle is the same too, though. They're expecting to have a level 1 advantage on bot side, and they want to split the map, make sure the Caitlyn and Morgana cannot just freely push them in. So I like this idea from 100.
2Hero just walks into the trap. The murder bush is sprung. He's in big trouble. Dark Binding, I don't know where that was going. And that will be first bloods. Picked up for 100 Thieves the first time this series.
The buff doesn't reset either, so Nidalee does get that jungle advantage immediately. The Kindred must start on the other side of the map, and it's just a difficult start for Frost Forest. Fallen Bandit has to use the TP to go top. Camille will have TP advantage for the first few minutes.
Yeah, NXI now on the board on Nidalee as well. As long as you get that lead, it's really easy to maintain it on that champion. Of course, being one of the few champs in the entire game with no CC in her kit. Pretty much all about that damage, and does get pretty underwhelming when behind. When even or ahead, though, super oppressive to deal with. And that's why you see some of the more creative invades, regardless of the state of the lanes right now.
Frost Forest won a smite fight a level down, so he actually gets his red buff, is able to cross through mid, copy.
Oh, in big trouble. Frost Forest chasing him behind the turret. He needs this kill. He'll trade it 1 for 1. I don't think that was worth it at all. NXI with his second kill in his bank account. He only got the assist for the first one, but that's a great start from the Nidalee, mate.
Yeah, first blood feels good, but at the same time, you've given 4 buffs and kill gold over to this Nidalee. A huge pickup, a huge swing in favor of 100 Thieves. They're already off to a better start than they were in the previous games.
Yeah, we said this was the best draft for 100 Thieves. Next, they've now gotten the best possible start. I'm actually feeling really good for them. As much as it hurts me to say it, this could be the start of the run back.
Yeah, there's a little scrap in the bot lane. That bot prio trying to help Kindred get that mark. Both junglers are level 2, so going to be very difficult to see who immediately wins this.
Hook went wide, spawned in at the black shield just in case. 2 Hero. Responsible. We do have about a minute on this Drake. I'm going to highlight that as this vision push comes through. That's why this scuttle contest is real important. NXI will get it again. He's dominating this entire jungle phase.
Yeah, Nidalee Spear going wide on the crab there did mean NXI had to smite it, because of course the snare from the spear on those monsters does really help her clear. Honestly, end of the day though, pretty happy with how that turned out either way, and looking towards that Drake, because Nidalee, one of the most proficient Dragon solo champions in the game right now, especially since Trundle got a little bit of a nerf to his early skirmishing, and yeah, really happy to see what 100 are doing with this lead they've got. Something I do want to touch on, by the way, if you're confused as to why the Kalista has the spear in her inventory still, we saw it last game too, it's just because these teams of Thresh really love to go for the aggressive level 1 invades and really don't want to mildly inconvenience their support over the course of like a 10-second death, respawn, and bind animation.
Yeah. And just talking about junglers again, because I think NXI did a really good job with this path. He made sure he secured bot scuttle with bot lane, gets the top scuttle, has the opportunity to get flares now as well. As
yes, he does. Forces the flash out of flares now. That's
yeah,
going to
and
be
he has
a major summoner down.
He has his wolves and his entire bot side, barring the Raptors camp, which was taken by Kindred, still available to him. So able to get that, potentially get the respawn of the Gromp in the second round, and play for that dragon with this very aggressive bot lane.
That being said though, whichever bot lane does manage to shift prio around this first Drake just enables their jungler to live in the enemy side of that bottom quadrant. Looking at state of the map right now though, you said it yourself, the camp's pretty sparse across the board honestly, so both junglers, really the only option they have right now is to look into a reset followed by this Drake contest.
Yeah, and for me, contest is already happening. The wave did bounce back on the bottom side, so it's very easy for Kalista and Thresh to use that big wave to push in the Caitlyn Morgana, give the Nidalee the breathing room. And the Syndra versus Echo matchup, as it goes on, is really good for the Echo. And once you get into the side lane situation, it gets even better. So really good that this Echo is already a few CS up, even though he did die. And they're able to just secure this first Drake and make sure that they secure scaling for themselves, a little bit more scaling for themselves.
There it is, scooped up. I want to highlight Spawn and 2 Hero have just been shoved behind that turret for a while, and now that's going to get exploited as Frost Forest is struggling to stay alive inside his own jungle. He built the Black Shield to keep himself up as NXI shoves forward. So no kill goes through again, but 100 Thieves next, still bullying the map positioning.
Yeah, I do want to touch on the fact this bot lane was consistently having their stuff shoved in, and that's largely because Caitlyn does need that BF sword initial spike to be able to reliably recall, as well as that Berserker's Greaves really easy to pick up, the 200 gold cheaper, which is basically a wave you can just sit back in. But at the same time, I'm perplexed by how this lane state has been allowed to happen, considering that Polar Ace just looked dominant in our prior 2 games.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the wave management and the fact that they did get that kill bot side onto 2 Hero, just making sure that they're able to contest the wave because their jungler is on that side of the map. And now they get to do the same thing with this red, as they get to completely push out the Kindred. Doesn't get his Raptors respawn even, and Flares with no flash is in a lot of danger too, because he's able, Ornn is able to push the wave in, and they could potentially bring jungle support and mid to the top side. But now Yan is also the weak side, and this Caitlyn Morgana can finally start doing what they were drafted to do.
So for context, by the way, after that invade top, the Kindred has had 1 red buff for the better part of 15 seconds before dying to the mid lane tier 1. Really not an ideal start. Trying for the contest now, but the entire team
There's the
is
second
here.
one.
He's got the second red buff, Ibris. How do you like him now?
Is he going to lose it in 10 seconds? Time will tell. Already more successful with it than the previous time, but because he chose bot, pull the trigger on an immediate neutral objective, really good decisive play, and honestly, there's no real contest available for the side of Polar Ace, because top got a reset, mid got a reset and was winning anyway, and your bot lane plus jungler are basically in Narnia.
This
Yeah,
is
and the
actually
jungle
I don't
CS
think I've ever
difference.
Sorry. I don't think I've ever seen a jungler just get shoved into the school locker as badly as Forest just has been. There is no better way to start the game for 100 next, so let's change the conversation, invert. What do Polar Ace need to do to stem the bleeding? How do they get back in this?
If you look at the pressure points for Polar Ace, as we see a fight in the bot lane,
Probably nothing comes of it. 2Hero will be scared very low, and I speak
There's
too
the
soon.
flash.
Eon absolutely has this damage. Do not discount the early game, Kindred. The mistake was made against Spawn, and now Spawn's own ally falls to it. He's not out of the zone yet. You can see him just getting full chased behind. That's actually a ton of damage from Coffee. In the meantime, this Rift Herald gets pulled out by NXI. That bot lane turret is in huge trouble.
Much like
Yeah.
Fallen Bandit.
Oh!
one more auto,
think he
does
will
get
go
it.
down.
Doesn't even need to use the ulti. Didn't even level it
my
before that
God.
turret shot took it.
I do want to mention, by the way, like, you can already tell that Yun was just a completely different player from the first two games, based on the fact he sidestepped the first two Morgana bindings in lane. If that wasn't enough to prove it to you, that aggressive push up, down there in the bot lane, really cool to see, really promising confidence. And yeah, the attempted 1v1 turned into a bit of a fumble here. Huge commitment from Fallen Bandit. Does he get the solo kill? He does.
Aye.
Okay, we missed it, but yeah, okay. Now I understand why he solo died to
Yeah.
Hey, Fallen Bandit trading 1-1 in lane. That we take those. That's an improvement in work.
Yeah, and I really liked how aggressive Jan and Otto were. They have to be this aggressive if they're going to play this lane into the Caitlyn Morgana, or else they're just going to slowly lose. The Herald does get used, I believe, on the bot side as well, as Camille is able to jump into the Nidalee, gets a smite off for the heal.
God. This could be a really big kill. He's got backup though at NXI with
Great
the flash.
flash.
He'll get to safety. Lands the spear as well. There's Fallen, the coach there for the save. NXI kept alive.
Heartbreaker for Flares there. He has his Sheen for the burst, he has his Tiamat for the clear and the dueling. You're not going to make a dent in the Ornn, so as soon as he sees a kill in his eyes, hard commits for it, blows up in his face, and unfortunately, just dies randomly. Now you see 100 Thieves using that momentum to try and contest this Drake.
Yeah, NXI was chunked out, so they tried to use the jungler in the base to have the opportunity with a smite advantage to take Dragon. Not going to do it, but there could be a fight for it as Camille is walking top with TP.
Yeah, Drake was started earlier by Polar Ice. Now they just give ground. 100 Thieves next will take it. Polar Ice don't contest the second Drake of the game. Instead, they're trying to do their own jungle, which may get very dicey. Frost Forest is saved by the quick fingers on 2Hero's Black Shield. That should only be the blue buff getting stolen away. Frost Forest is actually kiting it in the other direction.
Oh,
Like,
stolen
just
away
kiting it
for
in the top
sure.
video. Oh my god. No, the reset! He's got places to be! That blue buff stolen! And Frost Forest is forced to spend the last respite just to keep alive. It will be the Tempered Fate. Keeping, oh my lord, keeping Auto up. Very well played. Flares in the meantime is going to get hunted down again here on the top lane by Fallen Bandit. The coach on 100 next, who has been solid this game after a few rough plays earlier.
Yeah, if you're wondering why he pulled the trigger on the Call of the Forge God there, it's because he had no vision in the bush. Maybe feared that the Camille was TPing for a bit of a flank bot lane, because of course that skirmish did happen at the tier 2 while the tier 1 was still standing, so the Camille had an easy time finding her way in there. Flares wasn't actually doing much, so makes Fallen Bandit look kind of dumb, but hey, better safe than sorry. It wasn't like he was going to use that Ornn ult in the near future anyway, unless they do contest this Herald. But right now, 100 Thieves more than happy with the place they found themselves in, just because it's an uphill struggle for everyone not named Camille from here on out.
Yeah, and if you're the side of Polar Ace, you're really looking at this Camille split push as the opportunity to get your gold lead back. Right now, we're not really seeing a lot of pressure from the other lanes that Polar Ace has, especially this Caitlyn Morgana, who was drafted to be that lane bully. The buffs coming in 10-15, we didn't really see them come to fruition or yield anything out as a result of it.
Spawn did get that BF sword in his inventory. He is, theoretically online. But everything else around the map has fallen apart to such a degree that it's just impossible to notice whether or not the Caitlyn buffs have made a difference. I do want to spend some time before we focus in on that talking about Frost Forest, because despite being shoved in the high school locker, he is working his way back into this game. Oh my lord, and they're looking for more as well onto Auto. But with the 2 kills in his pocket, he's like a presence again.
Yeah, the early game for the Kindred kind of irrelevant as long as she gets 4 marks by around the 20-minute mark and can actually team fight with the increased range. I do want to touch on that Caitlyn, as you mentioned, though, because not only is she now kind of diversifying her build and getting some attack speed or crit or finishing off the BF sword, finishing off the Infinity Edge, but even if she rushed the IE, that single item spike is nothing compared to the blade for the Callista or the proto belt for the Echo. These carries are huge for the sides of Thieves, and they may get huger.
Copy in huge trouble here. Busio with the chase. Call the Forge God will come through. Fallen Bandit stalling out this fight. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. This Fallen Bandit stands a little bit too far forward though. Copy gets bullied round the side. The ulti doesn't have enough damage yet though. Polar Ace, despite their investment in the mid lane, get nothing for it.
Yeah, a bit sloppy on the side of 100 Thieves, just because the Herald start was very, very good. They see Kindred on the bottom side of the map, but they never pull their numbers back up to the top side. So you actually get a small 4v3 angle for the side of Polar Ace. They're able to stop the Herald as a result of that and pressure Copy on that mid wave at the same time. If you look at the items too, even with the lack of completed items on the side of Camille and Caitlyn, they can still be scary because they have that numbers advantage. So playing off of that, really good job by Polar Ace to stop that Herald. Unfortunately, it's going to go to NXI anyways on this move.
Yeah, I do want to touch on the fact that Polar Ace actually, despite having that late game Camille win condition, 100 Thieves have done fantastically with Fallen Bandit in particular, doing a fantastic job of holding down this Camille. You saw the solo kill earlier. Spellbook Ornn always has the kill pressure with Ignite at level 6-ish, because 6 minutes 30, that extra shard. Really nice to play around. And honestly, again, you're just seeing naturally Polar Ace's comp is a little bit behind when it comes to just item spikes. They need 2, they need 3. They can't go blow for blow at this stage of the game.
Drake coming up here makes this fight very important as NXI and Auto are fishing for one. They're trying
Camille
to set up a big play to kind of end this game before it begins.
There's no good TP ward for Camille either, so it does look like they're just going to give this up for stopping the Herald and getting top tier 1, but Echo TP does stop that plan in its tracks. Really good by 100 Thieves. Really TP. Good by Polar Ace to commit.
But Copy is playing this fight damn well. He gets ulted, will have the recall, that keeps him up. Full damage in, this stun will slow things down. Flair's in trouble, here comes Auto. As Flair's gets the kill on the Copy, Auto wants to make the fight way more dangerous. Fallen Bandit, all the way up top, did start a fight of his own. I'm not sure he wins this. This is now a 1v3, but he's just taking it, and he forces a flash out. Everyone has to run away from the coach, who's shoving in the mid lane. Eon will join him. Frost Forest in huge trouble. NXI waiting over the wall. Doesn't land the spear.
Camille!
Right, despite everything going wrong, do manage to survive that.
Let's!
And he gets the TP.
Alright, we love it. He gets his top lane tier 1, gets out of there, and yeah, honestly, fantastic swing for Polar Ace there. Yes, it looked a little bit dicey. They were committing so hard, but at the end of the day, they clear out the Herald mid, kill the Echo in the side lane, get a tier 1, and get out without losing too much of anything, really. Honestly, looking at Polar Ace is coming out ahead on that play, even if the game state is still not necessarily the greatest position to be in. All eyes should be on Yun and NXI in particular to really hammer home the fact that they've got such a lead on such early game dominant champions.
Yeah, and I thought the reaction TP for Copy's TP was actually a really, really good look. I really appreciated how aggressive and proactive they were with that. They have to keep making plays like this in the face of an Ocean Soul win condition on the side of 100 Thieves if they want to come back in this game.
Oh, full abandon. The coach Smurf again.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Ornn
two
is
guns on the black
the
shield.
assassin.
It's been bullied out, and the assassin Ornn does not work out.
Yeah, you can't actually cast the Ornn ult when you don't have vision of the Syndra though, because if you get QE'd, the knockback on that is actually cancelled. I mean, you can cast it, but it's a little bit of a risk always.
I believe it was on cooldown during that time.
Yeah,
as
that
well,
too, of course.
so.
I do
Yeah.
want to touch on, by the way, Fallen Bandit, and he's the top laner of 100 Thieves. Bandit.
Did you guys ever hear as we
Oh my
see
God.
that kill?
No, we can just keep
And that
talking.
second
Actually,
one.
maybe not. Copy wants more. Spawn is in huge trouble, but Copy's going to be able to ult away when it gets too dicey for him.
Did you guys ever...
That kill that just randomly happened in the jungle, Yorn decided he had enough of the lull state. Full committed. Here comes Lance.
wow.
The wolf try and punish. Does land the ulti. Eon is chained in the middle of this fight, but Auto's there to back him up. It's a great box. Flares is barely alive. The Kindred ult is keeping
Great
everyone
Kindred
up.
ult.
That is it. Auto survives. Nobody goes down for 100 next. And Busio and everyone on Polar Ice is having to run for their lives. Their hold, their big play shattered inside the jungle.
Fallen Bandit? Okay.
We'll have to call the force
enough,
gone.
enough!
Nothing more.
Okay, there we go. Okay, really cool start to that for Polar Ace. It looked like they were turning it on. You called out that Kindred ultimate was beautiful. It was in the choke point, but the Echo parallel convergence to cut that choke point off. Smack bang in the middle of this Kindred ult creates so much space for the carries to work with on the side of 100 Thieves next, and just locks down, secures a couple of kills on the side of Polar Ace as well. Really huge entry from Copy on the tail end of that fight, even if the assists didn't really reflect in that.
Yeah, and as much as I gotta say that was a pretty good Kindred ult for this situation, you gotta feel for Frost Forest based on all the early happenings. That 54 camp, 5 camp deficit has ballooned to almost being double the CS down. Just really rough stuff to be Kindred in this situation. 3 levels down, item and a half down. It's just very difficult to play Kindred in this situation when a Nidalee can just poke you down before you can get in range to do anything at all.
We do have another Drake in 30 seconds. It is Ocean Soul again. As we said earlier, if Polar Ice were to be able to get it, it is a big enough buff. It might undo the damage that was done in the early. Fallen Bandit did get poked away at, but he's got so much HP they literally cannot kill him. And here comes the fight now. Complete encirclement for 100x. Polar Ace are just pinned between a rock and a hard place. But Auto's the first to fall. Spawn's damage is finally online. He chucks one. Nixie forced to stasis. 2 hero will fall. That's the support.
Flares.
So it's very difficult to survive as Flares arrives. It's going to be Frost Forest instead, fighting 1, 2 kills in the middle of this fight. Flares has done his work. He's bought the space. And now the damage can come through. 100 next, find a response. It's Fallen Bandit in for 1. He'll get a second of his own if Flares slows down, but he's not able to complete it. Busio kites back with the aid of Flares. They keep everyone up. Polar Ace managed to trade not quite a clean fight, but even in the middle of that.
The Camille just dancing in the backline of 100 Thieves next. Finds hookshot in, finds hookshot out, and honestly, Flares played that fight so well, dictating the engages, the disengages. It split so hard. Syndra was in no position to fight. Kindred was a wall away, but the rest of Polar Ace bought so much time for the collapse that you have to think 100 Thieves next were in the driver's seat for this fight, and this is just Polar Ace playing that about as well as they could have, given the
Dig round 2. Evres Keep it
Are you
going,
guys ready
because
for
the
round
Drake's
two?
still up. And Frost Forest
Flares?
is in trouble again. Over the wall will keep it safe. Flares down bottom, did fight into Copy. Copy gets the lantern away, no harm, no foul. Here comes the Drake being focused down by Nixie as Flares pushes hard. Frost Forest will go in. Lapser Spine is dead. He steals the Drake. Frost Forest, huge plays, but he'll pay for it with his life. And Flares in the meantime is dueling out versus Copy and cannot quite finish the kill. Auto instead goes in to save the day, and nobody goes down. That's a good lasso onto Flares, but it won't end that fight.
Oh,
Instead,
that
he
hook
goes in too far and still trades
Busio!
1-for-1. Busio's over the wall though. He's got the kill. Copy down, a double kill to his name. This could get worse for 100 next, as Fallen Bandit needs to slip away, and Polar Ace back into it.
TJ, your prediction is coming true. Polar Ace, they deny the Ocean Soul off of a hero play from their new jungler. The guy's staged debut under the Polar Ace banner, and he shows up huge. A steal from right under NXI's nose. The Nidalee smites for health, I guess, because you kind of have to. Narrowly gets QE'd by the Syndra out of that Kindred ult. And yeah, Flares, hero build, because this guy is 1v9 in the enemy backline time and time again.
Yeah, one of the things I really liked about that fight was just how coordinated the Syndra and the Kindred were in that dragon situation, and how they wanted to play it after. So the Echo gets peeled off of the flank, is unable to join the fight where the Kalista and the Caitlyn are, so the Caitlyn feels pretty safe as well. So they're just able to keep their backline safe because Flares is always threatening those flankers.
Yeah, the Ornn, by the way, sat in pit for 5 seconds waiting for the R to come back up, pressed R, missed R, and then just kind of had to limp away while everyone else was dead. Kind of unlucky, but hey,
I do
Flares
believe
again
Flares
on the
wins
prowl.
this 1v1. He does win the 1v1 overall because of the Ravenous Hydra. So
Yeah, you build it into tanks, they can't outdamage your lifesteal.
Fallen Bandit has
NXI
backup.
helping.
Doesn't need to win a 1v1. He says, I learned from game 2, Flares. You're not doing that again, and Flares turns the tables. And NXI is so low. He's gonna go down. Flares finds the kill in a 1v2. He should go down in trade, but that is more than enough damage to walk away with your head held high.
Even with that hookshot missing, just picks up that kill, and yeah, again, not quite the pull threat that we saw from him in game 2, where his team could just respond with something crazy elsewhere across the map, but it gets them Baron Vision Control and allows them to set up for this invert. I know you love your Baron Vision Control. I know you love talking about the consequences of it, especially with these two comps. Tell me about your thoughts around this next objective.
Well, we'll see if the Baron is actually the next objective. For me, both teams have really solid Baron pressure with Nidalee and Kalista on one side, and then Liandry, Syndra, and Kindred on the other side. But I think the Ocean is going to be the next pain point on the side of Polar Ace. They need to get another fight like that and prevent this Ocean Soul condition from happening. And if we look at the items they have, they're actually on the right track to doing so. The one thing that I'm worried about is if Caitlyn can get enough AD on time for this next fight, because Stormrazor and Rapid Fire, not the greatest combo to be dealing damage to a champion like Ornn or a champion like Thresh with the amount of armor and health that he has.
Yeah, we said they needed like 2-3 items on the side of Polar Ace for the 1 item spikes on the side of 100 Thieves next. But again, Echo, Nidalee, these like really heavy hitting damage threats, they scale with each item that they buy. Like, they spike on every item pretty much, especially Echo, to the point where any kind of delay, even if it is making the Kalista a little less relevant, just again, really shooting up how much damage these carry threats can do.
Yeah, and as Kalista goes...
go ahead. I do want to point out, even as this game gets a little bit dicey, 100 Next do still have the gold lead, they do still have soul point. It is too early to say Polar Ace or have even control of this game, but they are back in striking range of control of this game.
They're here as 5 first at the Ocean. One thing you have to consider is Auto has no wards, okay? So he cannot reset. They must use the control they have now to get this Ocean. And on the side of Polar Ace, they need to have that TP flank ready and available for Flare so that he can get to the backline. Currently, there's a ward in the Ocean bush, it looks like, but he's going to use the minions to TP.
They know, they've spotted it. It's been pinged. And TP
So they're
ready.
moving forward.
Up. Fallen Bandit says, let's go off the back of that auto. We'll spend the box and they instantly lose 2 hero. That's a big pick for 100 next. Polar Ace already down a star. Frost Force forced to spend the last right jump to stay alive. He'll flash away, and all the while, as Ibris calls out, Flares is focusing down the Drake. He might be able to save this yet, even as they lose 2 members. Frost or Flares would like to save the day, and he cannot. Soul cleaned up. 100 next have the Ocean Soul. They have 2 kills, and they may have Flares as well. This is what it takes to get back in the series. And Flares is not liking it one bit. He'll run away, probably just into turret for the execute.
And this is what we wanted to see from 100 Thieves next.
Oh my god!
I like it.
Flares with the great escape. He's still going. The spear is wide. He's got the hook shot. Ibris! How's he done that?
Camille, but also they got Ocean Soul, and they had 2 members of the enemy team dead. Instead of rotating for Baron Vision, instead of resetting at a good moment, they chased the Camille. Just waste a little bit of time, lose a turret for it, and honestly, 100 Thieves next, that was a little bit unclean from a team that did very well to fight this out. You see them, as Invert called, moving up, moving away, moving forward, so that the Camille had to close more distance from that initial bot lane TP to actually join the fight. And that's why you see Flares just saying, nah, I won't join this, but maybe he'll join this one.
He has to. He has no TP.
Want to call out Flares on the flank. He's spotted again. Is the same response. Call the Forge God will go through. Frost Forest in trouble. 2 hero into stasis this time. Not instantly dead, though he is still in trouble. He still is first blood. Flares goes into the back lines, and he'll find the kill. Neon's gone, and that's a major first pick. Lapse Respite will keep Flares alive. Him and Frost Forest dueling in the back. Fallen Bandit takes all the damage and asks for more, though. And that will just cancel out everything as the death sentence grants Mixie a response. The jungler is dead for Polar Ace. There will be no Frosty Forest in this fight. And 100 next have managed to win and stall out.
Yeah, I mean,
Death Sentence really cleaning that fight up from Auto. The initial one was a little shaky. The hard commit with the Callista ult as well, just missing everybody. And that bought enough time for Polar Ace to let this fight happen. But the front to back kind of fighting, the Echo W, the hard commit onto the Callista really gave 100 Thieves a lot to work with. But
Flares.
Polar Ace, they're not out of it yet.
Stop this.
What is this? Flares goes in. This would be a 1v4 stall, and he does stay ahead of the stuns. Hook shot won't get him out. He's instead just brawling into the fight. He'll go down. Did reset the Baron tank. That's all he gets, though.
But now Jan is back, so they are able to take this down with a numbers advantage. Jan is going to come up here. He has the Bork. He's going to be able to shred this as well. With Ocean Soul, it's going to be really difficult for them to contest. The best way they're going to do it is Kindred Ult and then 50-50 Smite.
That is their best bet. Spawn's in trouble, though. 100x don't want to take that fight. Fallen Bandit misses the ult, but it won't matter. Nixie finds the first kill. Oh, and Frost Forest is gone again. For the second time this Baron take, the Polar Ace jungle is out of the game. And that surely should mean that they have a game back in the books. This series is in fact a series. Ibris, we may go all the way.
We may, but it might just be 4 games if Polar Ace can dominate after realizing that perhaps Callista on Yun isn't necessarily what you want to have happen here, because suddenly this guy that has had suspect lane phase all series long looks dominant. The 80 carry for 100 Thieves next finds his mark time and time again, and really, honestly, Polar Ace nearly pulled this one back despite the Nidalee having such a good start for NXI, and now you're looking at 100 Thieves to close this game much cleaner than they had done earlier on.
Yeah, and look at the power of Flares here. He's literally zoning 3 people and then is still able to get the Callista kill off of a Morgana route afterwards. is really well played. Even though the team is so far behind, he's clearly using that side lane pressure, the fact that he did have a winning matchup and counter matchup to the advantage of his team. Unfortunately, it's just not enough given the advantages in the jungle on the side of 100 Thieves.
I thought that fight was over and then Fallen Bandit. But they've still... Okay, good. All right. I thought that was live. I was like, they still haven't taken the Baron. What am I watching? Yep, all the way in. Auto will have to blast cone over the wall. Redemption spent very early here. And Fallen Bandit goes in the very start of the fight. 100x want to start this strong, and they do.
Crossboard's
forced to spend the Lamb's Respite. Him and Flair's in the middle of it as he goes down. That surely will be it. 100x, bully out the jungle. Ibriz, game number 3 of a best-of-5 series after dominant victories finally starts to skew towards 100x. And it's all through the bot lane that was silent. Eon's back, Nixie in the jungle, pops off here in the early game. That was the major difference.
Yeah, Spawn taking half his health from a single Nidalee Spear really hammers home just how far ahead this comp is, and they're looking to close with it.
Flares for the last-ditch attempt will go into stasis. They're just taking the turrets, ignoring the stopwatch, and that will be game. A huge strike back for 100 Thieves next. After we thought they were going to get shut out in the series, they are back on the board, 2-1. Polar Ace still the lead, but 100x are here to play.
TJ,
the Yun redemption arc in full swing.
And TJ, my prediction is more on track than your prediction now. What happened?
You are the only one, I think, across the entire desk and casters that could still be nice about the series.
So, I really like the changes 100 Thieves came up with here. Just great stuff to add some confidence back into their bot lane and really challenge Polar Ace to be like, hey, do you guys have an answer to Kalista? Is it clear what you guys are going to play into this champion? And you know, they took our advice, they played around bot, they made sure they got their bot in a really good position with that split map / level 1 situation. And, you know, they really snowballed well after that. I was really, really happy to see the adaptation and the comeback factor of 100 Thieves playing through a side that they previously showed was kind of weaker in this series. You know, it built up a lot of confidence to be able to see your bot lane not perform so well and then give them the key to the game, give them that opportunity to show their stuff.
I want to wrap us up quick because I know we have an analyst desk that is chomping at the bit. Ebras, just as a final note, I do want to also call out Fallen Bandit stepped up. He might not have been a major factor in winning the game, but he played his role. He didn't get bullied in lane by Flares, who was still playing extremely well. That's got to be a major focus coming into this next game and this next draft, right?
Yeah, that's why I think red side is super important for Polar Ace here, just because you get that counter pick top. Wasn't quite enough to drag their bottom half of the map kicking and screaming across the finish line this time around, largely because of this Nidalee's early game, just completely shutting that side of the map out completely. But at the same time, there was a lot of promise there for Polar Ace either way, and I'm sure there are a lot more than just flares and 4 randoms, as some of the untrained eyes to the scene really looked at this team as being.
Someone's just turned on the lights in your area, Invert, and I believe that someone's just turned on the lights at 100 Thieves next area as well. They have a full series ahead of them, a best of 5 to come. We'll go to a lightning fast break, and then we are back as our semi-finals continue. Don't you dare tune out now.